Hi, this is Anne, or Anne as they say in Dutch, and I'm here with day 13 of my advent calendar project or experiment. Typically, I have two houses here, but today we have one house, number 13, and then one tree with number 13 on there as well. So the chocolate is in here, I'm gonna put that aside, and I'm gonna open this one. There's a big paper in here. Let's see what's on here. It's one of my favorite mantras. I will thrive tomorrow thanks to the mistakes I'm willing to make today. This is something that I came up with myself quite some years ago when I was in coaching training. And I remember I was doing a project and I was combining full-time work with evening training to take the coaching training. And I was driving home from the project, and that evening we had class, but not just any class. It was a class where we could practice with people who were not in the training. So typically we would get some explanation on concepts and then we would practice with the other participants in the training. But this time it was not practicing with other participants, it was practicing with quote-unquote real people. So they were invited by the organizer of the training, and they were really not related to the training at all. They were just people who were really struggling with something or wanting to work on something, and they wanted to get some coaching. And of course they knew that we were coaches in training and they were asked to take that into account, but still it was real quote-unquote real people with real problems. And I remember driving home and being in my head all the time, worrying about the upcoming practice training. And I remember thinking like, I wish that there would be a massive traffic jam so that I would never be on time. And then I would have a good excuse to not be in the training and to not have to practice with these real people. And also thinking, maybe I could have a little accident and there would be no physical damage, not to me, not to anybody else, but just no bodily damage, let's say, but maybe just some damage to the car, and that would prevent me from participating in the training, and that would be a good excuse. And I had all these thoughts going through my brain, being worried about getting it wrong and making a fool of myself and not being able to do a good coaching session with the person in the practice session. And then also thinking, are there ways for me to back out of this practice session? Maybe if there is a big traffic jam, or maybe if I would have an accident. And so all these things were going through my brain, and I could feel that also my body was really tensed up, and I had sweaty palms and my breathing was shallow, and I was really very stressed and very nervous. Now, there was not a massive traffic jam and there was luckily no accident. And so I was on time for the training, and I called in and I did my practice session and I survived. So that in and of itself is something that's important to notice. Even when we are stressed out for something, we find a way to navigate it. And so here I managed to navigate it and I survived. Now, I survived. At the same time, I didn't want to be that nervous for every next practice session that there would be. So I got some coaching on it, and I primarily coached myself on it, and I would do lots of journaling on it. And in one of these journaling sessions, I really challenged myself to come up with a different perspective. That's what I was doing in the journaling and the self-coaching. And this was one of the things that came up and that really resonated with me and that really stuck. And I have been using it in that training over and over again. It really made a difference. And it was this perspective shift of this practice, this practice session is the most important thing. And I have to perform perfectly here. This is the most important thing. I shifted my perspective from that to expand my view and to look at the training as a whole and to say like, hang on, what doesn't matter right now is the quality of my training right now. What matters is how I come out of this training. And I want to be a good coach when I come out of this training. And in order for me to be a good coach when I get out of this training, I have to be willing to make mistakes now. And the mistakes that I'm making now, they don't matter in that bigger scheme. Actually, the more mistakes that I'm willing to make right now, the better a coach I'm going to be when I'm out of the coaching training and finishing up the coaching training and graduating. And so this got summarized into the phrase, I will thrive tomorrow, thanks to the mistakes I'm willing to make today. And I had this on a post-it note, and I had this on my notebook for the training. And I reminded myself of this over and over again. Making mistakes now is the best thing for me to do, because if I'm willing to make mistakes right now, I'm gonna learn the most and I'm gonna be a better coach. And then 6 months from now, nobody will remember all the mistakes I made in the training, because I became a better coach because of all the mistakes I was willing to make in the training. And what will matter is me being a good coach 6 months from now. And that's all what people will be seeing. And that's all what I will be seeing as well, and what is going to be valuable for me as well. So this is something that you might want to try on as well, especially when you are starting something new, maybe a new project or a new role, or maybe you're also in a training and you're taking a training and you might want to hold back and you might want to do things perfectly. Well, when you are in this training, or when you are in the early stages of exploring something and figuring something out, that's an ideal stage to make lots of mistakes, because the more mistakes you're willing to make in the beginning, the faster you're going to be learning and the better you are going to be in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now. So especially when starting something new or learning something new or figuring something out, don't hesitate to make mistakes. And it doesn't mean actually that I was making plenty of mistakes in every coaching practice. Of course, there were some mistakes, or there were things that were okay, but that could have been different, or that could have been better. And this doesn't mean that I will be making mistakes whenever I'm doing something. It just means that I'm putting myself in that practice session willing to make a mistake. I'm gonna give it my all. I'm gonna do my best with what I know and what I can do in that moment, and I'm gonna give it my all. And at the same time, I am willing for that to get better over time, and to be better over time, and to improve my skills and my expertise in that area. And so in order to do that, I'm willing to make mistakes, or I'm willing to do something that could be done differently or better. And then being open to the feedback that I'm getting from the teacher or the person that I coached, or the other participants, which is something that would happen. There would be a little feedback round, and it would be very interesting and very valuable to be open to that and listen to that and see like, hey, yeah, this is something that I want to take on board. Thank you for that. I'm gonna take that on board for next time. And sometimes there were things like, okay, that's not my style, that's not something that I want to take on board. It might work for you, but it's not the style of coaching that feels natural to me, so I'm not going to take it on board. But then it might spark another idea or another way to phrase something or to ask something. And even though I might not literally take on board what somebody would give me as feedback, it would trigger something in me. We're like, okay, not that thing, but there is another flavor of that would be a better fit for me, and so I'm taking that on board. So yeah, this is something that I used a lot, and that was very meaningful for me, and so I invite you to try it on and to see if it works for you. And if not, of course, you can tweak it, use different words, or use a different sentence overall. What the main point here is that willingness to not be perfect, and the willingness to make mistakes, because you're not focused on the event here and now. You're broadening your perspective and you're looking at the bigger picture. And 6 months from now, 1 year from now, nobody will remember what happened here in this one meeting or in this one session, when you allow yourself to learn from the things that went different than expected and grow and evolve because of that. And then people 6 months from now, 1 year from now, will meet that you that's got more skills and more expertise and more knowledge, etc. All right, so that's the big perspective shift, and I phrased that here with this sentence. You can try it on and it might work for you, or it might not fully work for you, like a jacket that is not really a right fit. And then you can play with the wording, or you can come up with your own wording expressing that same perspective shift that I explained. All right, so that's it for today's tip. Let's move on to this cute little tree, and let's see what is in there. Well, I know what's in there. There's a chocolate in there, but what kind of chocolate is in there? Oh, such a pretty one. So it's a orangey, yellowy, a deep yellow, a bit of brown in there as well. And there's some speckles here. Yeah, I think you can see it, it's in focus. Some black specks here. Okay, so I'm gonna do a taste test. There's some alcohol in here. I'm not good with that, so I've got no idea what it is. No, it feels vaguely familiar. I have no idea what it is. Definitely alcohol, so I'm gonna look up the name, look up what's in here. This one has got a real sharp, outspoken taste. This, from all the chocolates that I've tasted, might be the most sharp one. The others were really defined in their taste. Like, yeah, that's the right word, really defined. This one has got a sharpness to it. It's like, yeah, the most sharp one. All right, that was a chocolate tasting. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna leave it here. And yeah, I see you tomorrow for a new day and a new tip, tool, and insight, and a new chocolate. See you.